Hi, everyone. My name is Jim Gillam with MidAmerica National Bank. I'll be talking to you a little bit about cash flow management and saving today. So let's hop right into it. Having a budget is very important in order to keep track of what you have coming in and what you have going out. The primary goal, of course, is to have more coming in than you have going out. So not a lot of people like the term budget. So I'm going to fancy it up for you and call it cash flow management, managing your cash flows. So some goals that we need to keep in mind when thinking about cash flow management. So goal number one, you want to save first. Okay, it's critical that when you earn an income to be disciplined enough to set aside a certain amount each time you receive that income. So every paycheck. If you try to save from your leftover income, you'll likely find that there is no leftover income to save from. So I'm going to cover savings a little bit more here in a few minutes. So goal number one, save first. Goal number two, spend less than what you make. So this only makes sense, and it's right in line with being disciplined to save first. You need to be sure you spend less than what you make. If you spend more than what you make, you're going to accumulate debt that you'll have difficulty paying off later. And likely you'll be living paycheck to paycheck. And that's what we want to stay away from. Number three, you need to have a means of tracking your income and expenses, whether it's Excel spreadsheet, QuickBooks, cash flow management software, whatever it is. If it's just your own little ledger, you need to track every penny coming in and every penny going out. And our fourth goal is to evaluate outflows regularly. So outflows are expenses, okay? You don't want to just track your expenses one time and then forget about it. Okay, this is an ever-changing world. Your expenses are not going to stay the same. So recheck your cash flows periodically to see that you stay in balance with spending less than you make and saving enough to meet your financial goals. So due to the current high inflation rate, this is particularly important now because of the increase in price on many of the goods and services we buy each day. Now, I'm going to stay on cash outflows here. There's three primary categories of cash outflows. These are the needs, the wants, and obligations, right? So needs are the things that we need to live. Food. Okay, there's a few options when it comes to food. So you need to be mindful of what you're eating. Healthy food is probably the most important thing, right? Affordable, healthy food. So buying groceries and eating at home is one option, but this requires a little bit more effort when preparing the meal, but it does look better on your checkbook, on your pocketbook, right? So hopefully you're buying foods, like I said, that are good for you with little to no expenditures on junk food. Of course, eating out is fun and nice if you do it once in a while, but it can be very expensive if you do it too frequently. So keep that stuff in mind. Clothing. Clothing can be expensive, especially when buying name brands. So if you have the type of job where you have a certain dress code, be sure to plan for this. So whether you work in a business-like setting or as a laborer, you'll have to keep your wardrobe up to date. Slow down your expenditure on leisure clothes, right? And plan your shopping trips to include only what you need to keep your costs down. And shelter. So there's two aspects to this, renting and purchasing, okay? So if you live in a rental, that can help to level out the cost of your housing expenditures, but it will be subject to rent increases by your landlord. So you're at your landlord's mercy. So hopefully your landlord is also good about promptly and adequately making repairs and staying current on the ongoing maintenance, right? Living in your own home, on the other hand, can provide long-term level benefits. Of course, any repairs and maintenance to your house will be up to you to figure out and out of your pocketbook, which goes back to the importance of saving first. However, you do have the opportunity to build an equity in your home while you don't in a rental. Now let's get into the wants. Still talking about cash outflows here. So wants are things you desire but can live without. So things like a vacation home. So most everybody would love to have a second home where they can get away, enjoy different climates and sceneries. It would be nice, right? But it's definitely something you live without. If you buy an RV, so a lot of people are buying RVs nowadays, traveling around the country and basically taking their vacation home with them. Again, this is a want. and not a need, unless you make the RV your residence full-time. And Netflix. So I'm not picking on Netflix specifically, but things like Hulu and Amazon Prime, all the various entertainment options that are out there, and the subscription prices for each. So individually, it may sound inexpensive, right? If you just have one or two. If you have 3 or 4, those add up. And if you're not using all of them, then maybe a good chance to take another look, make sure you're getting the expected value out of them that you want. And if not, then dropping them. You know, if you're using Netflix once every 3 months, you're not going to miss it. I promise you. So now let's get into obligations, right? And so these are beyond needs and wants, okay? These are payment on debt. So the debts that you owe. It's important to stay up to date on the debts that you owe so that your credit score stays strong, right? So a common debt or obligation is a home mortgage, okay? You can set up your mortgage for a longer term to lower your monthly payment, say 30 years, but it'll take several years longer to build up any equity. So this could be a problem, especially if you plan to move out in just a few years. If possible, you should try to set up the shortest possible term for your mortgage, such as a 15-year term, so that you can build equity much faster, as well as paying off the mortgage much quicker, if you can afford it, because a shorter term loan will mean a higher monthly payment. Another debt that's common, car payment, right? So if we look at new versus used, so a new car, a higher upfront cost, right? And it'll depreciate very quickly. So buying a new car is risky in that sense. Not to mention the normal maintenance, licensing, fuel costs, as well as any unexpected repair bills. Of course, buying a used automobile will save you money up front, but may come with additional repair bills or more frequent repair bills. So that's just something you got to weigh out yourself. And another obligation that's common, credit cards. So credit cards, they can be helpful in building your credit, but can be a trap for spending more and just making the minimum payments, resulting in very little going toward the principal and a much longer repayment period. So credit cards to me are a double-edged sword. They have benefits, but they can also hurt you. They can also cut you, right? So many credit cards come with perks or discounts for a variety of products and services, so they can be beneficial. However, you have to pay off the balance due each month to avoid all interest charges. And if you can't do that, you need to pay off what you do have accumulated as quickly as possible. So now I'm going to get a little bit into savings, okay? So setting aside a portion of your income to save and invest is important. Investing typically involves long-term investment vehicles such as retirement plans, but saving is typically more for short-term needs and having an emergency fund. So today I'm going to talk about saving. Now, why do we save? Of course, stuff happens, right? Some people may use a different word, but sometimes things don't go as planned. You may encounter an emergency or an unexpected expense. This is the number one reason to have some liquid money quickly available to help you through these times. So in general, it's recommended you save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a short-term savings account. So now let's talk about short-term versus long-term cash needs. So some expenses may be expected or planned, but may not be incurred for a few weeks, months, maybe even a couple years, right? If you know the amount and you know when you need the amount, you can easily set aside an amount each month or pay period to accumulate what you'll need in the future, right? So for example, if you know you'll have a $1,200 expense in 1 year, if you save $100 per month, you're going to have the $1,200 in 1 year, right? So that's a simple one. But maybe 2 years down the line, you want to make a $3,000 down payment on a new vehicle. Okay. Assuming no interest on your savings, you need to save $125 per month to reach that goal. So that's just 2 years, $3,000 divided by 24 months equals $125 it'll take to get the $3,000 down payment for your car in 2 years, right? So plan ahead. Another reason we save for special opportunities that may arise. So say you've had your eye on a property in your neighborhood and it comes for sale and you think, hey, I want to build a home there. If you have savings in your savings account, built up, you can either make a sizable down payment on that property or even enough to buy the property outright. Okay. So it's important you have the funds available. And another reason we save is to build a foundation for good financial health. You always hear about the things you should do to maintain good personal health, right? Like dieting and exercising. Well, the same is true for financial health, right? There are many people today who live paycheck to paycheck and stress over having enough money to cover their bills. To build a good financial foundation, it's critical to establish a solid cushion in a savings account of, like I said earlier, 3 to 6 months of your expenses to handle any emergency or unexpected expense. So where are we going to put our savings, right? Of course, the most common option is a financial institution, a bank or a credit union. So typically when you think of a savings account, you think of a bank savings account. Even though the interest rate on a savings account isn't that much, it's available whenever you need it. And that's the most important aspect of having a savings account, the availability. Another option is a money market mutual fund. So this is different from a bank savings account in that it may have a minimum balance requirement that you need to maintain. Also, it pays higher interest than a savings account typically. As with a bank savings account, your money is very liquid, either through a distribution request or you can write a check out of a money market. You can also invest in a variety of short-term investments, but for the most safety, you should consider a fund that invests solely in U.S. Treasury securities. And of course, you could just keep cash, right? However, it doesn't pay any interest. It'll be difficult to put several $1,000s under your mattress or under your pillow. Even if you have a safe deposit box at the bank or safe at home, it's still not a good idea to have that much cash on hand. Theft, fire, misplacement, all these are unnecessary risks. So cash is not the best option at all. So let's get into how we can save. So like I mentioned earlier, you want to pay yourself first, okay? You want to save before you go through your expenses. So before you pay your bills and spend your money on the needs and wants. Automatic versus manual transfers. So automatic transfers are very, very helpful. So if you set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to a savings account, every Friday you get paid, let's say. Say you set aside $50 to be transferred from your checking to savings. Automatically, that means you're not going to see it. You're never going to see it. You're never going to forget about transferring it. So automatic is probably the way to go if you are worried that you're going to forget to transfer your money over. It out of sight, out of mind, right? So now I'm going to go over a few terms with you here. APY, annual percentage yield. So that is when a bank quotes a rate on a savings account or a different type of deposit account. They're required to quote the rate in terms of APY. This assumes reinvestment of any interest you earn and is slightly higher than the stated rate because the interest earned also earns interest, which is called compound interest, right? And that is, again, when interest is left in the savings account to also earn interest. You get a compounding effect on the growth of your account. This compounding effect is a powerful tool to help grow the funds in your savings account. And you may have heard of this, the rule of 72. So if you want to know how long it'll take to double your money, so simply divide 72 by the interest rate that you're receiving on your money. So if your interest rate is 4%, if you divide 72 by 4, that'll give you 18 years to double your money. Okay, pretty simple. But say you want to know what interest rate you need to earn to double your money, you divide 72 by the number of years. So if you want to double your money in 10 years, divide 72 by 10, and that'll give you a 7.2% annual rate of return you'll need to double your money in 10 years, right? So that's all I got for you guys today. My contact info is on this slide. Feel free to reach out and shoot me an email, give me a call. I'd be happy to chat with you. Thanks.